It will get... Maybe we should turn these lights on.
Yes.
Maybe that will help. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Is that too much?
Whoa, no, but now I'm not in the dark. Actually, you know what? Shut those two off and turn this one on. Let's see what happens there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can shut that one off too.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
Actually, you probably had it right the first time, but you know what? It was too much light.
You mean it's too late now?
Hmm?
Is it too much late now?
Mm-mm.
I can fix it.
No, before it was too much light. There can never be too much light, right? Okay. You ready? Want to lead us, Leonardo? Sashi Jakshimito Tranvirabhinshi Yante Gampadi Sange Shindu Mikte Uwa Kirokunamnak Shingla Jupasho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niyatayami Sange Judan Soki Choknam La Danchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Janyan Kimpe Sunamgi Drola Panche Sange Druparsho Sange Judan Soki Choknam La Danchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Janyan Gipe Sunamgi Drola Panchir Sange Druparsho Sange Chudan Soki Choknam La Danchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Janyan Gipe Sunamgi Drola Panchir Sange Druparsho. Last class. This is the last class of Magic of Empty Teachers. And I have a bonus round for you, for all of you who are attending class or know how to reach me. I have sourced all of the audio, the original audio by Llama Marut. It wasn't a huge feat, but it's on the internet, but it took a little searching to find it. And on that link, there is all of the homeworks, the quizzes, and the finals in blank form. All of it. So you can listen to the original Diamond Mountain, you can listen to Geshe Michael give the Silent Retreat teachings online too, but this is Llama Marut, and actually a beautiful teacher named Lama Giselle taught this together at Diamond Mountain in the first teacher training version of Geshe-la's teachings. And then it was brought to Vancouver by a couple of people, actually, by Holy Alexander Muir, Lama Alexander, and by Llama Marut. So a couple of times. I taught this originally in 2009 at the old Three Jewels, the original Three Jewels location in Kitsilano. And so it's been taught a few times, but this is the first time that we were asked to teach it, that I was asked to teach it here at the it's still new. It's been 3 years, but this is still the new Three Jewels, right, in Vancouver. So, but it was really a treat to be able to find all of the resource material from this original Diamond Mountain course, especially because the Diamond Mountain original server crashed. So the reason these are saved is because Llama Marut hosted them on the ACILA web server. So I will email the link, and you can share that. Please share that with Sean. I know he hasn't been able to come back for the last few classes, but great. So if you could forward it to him, that would be great. That way he can listen to all of Llama Marut's original lung on this too, and get a double whammy. So The last two classes we've spent going through the definitions, or not the definitions, we've been giving the definitions and the commentary to the exquisite poetry that Geshe Michael came out with, literally, during the original Magic of Empty Teachers teachings during his original silent retreat. And we're going to just finish up a bit of that, and then today we're going to kind of end where we began. We're going to go back to Rebecca Rinpoche's Day 9, but just a part of it, and then we're going to dive deep into Alexander Berzin in terms of the Guru, the Llama, the teacher. So, oh, actually, you know what? What we're not doing is finishing up the 90-something different. You'll have to read that and look back at the original Silent Retreat printout that I handed out in the first or second class, because things like be a panda bear and a Irish setter or something like. It was a type of a dog and a panda bear, and it was those types of that poetry. We've been going through it one by one in the last couple of courses. So, but what I am going to start this class with is the end of that original list of the qualities of a good teacher. That whole long list, and I think we left off at 16. Might have actually been several classes ago. And so you might remember that we were talking about how a good teacher really doesn't just mimic or parrot the information. They learn it well, and then they deliver it in their own voice, right? And so the next one, and apparently that was 16. I haven't really been keeping track of the numbers, but my notes say that was 16. So 17 is that a good teacher clones the teachings, not the students. And what that means is that the role of a teacher is to deliver the wisdom purely, but not to be in the career of teaching just to make little mini-me's. Just not to just create new minions in their image, right? Like, that's not the goal of it. Or not to have cookie cutter students. Like, you're not trying to create everyone, like download the information so that everyone receives it in exactly the same way. People are individual, right? And it's the uniqueness in each and every one of you that's going to make the way you teach this stuff to someone else special. So that's what it means by a good teacher clones the teachings, not their students. Next one, a good teacher is grateful to his or her teachers. This is absolutely true. I mean, just of the experience of teaching, the more I teach, the more I am grateful to my teachers, because I couldn't be doing any of this without them. I couldn't continue to be doing any of this without them. And you do start to realize, I mean, we've talked about this, right? The karma of having a good teacher is being a good student. And a really good teacher continues to be a good student. And a good teacher is teaching us how to be a good student and how to be a good teacher, right? So it really is the foundation for gratitude. And gratitude is a great place to start. We'll talk about it a bit more in today's class, but it's a great place to start to cultivate that enthusiasm for your teacher. It's a great place to start. Because it's so easy here, because we have access to so much, so many options, so many different ways to consume spirituality, everything translated into our own language, everything basically for free. We can easily just take it for granted. Not that I know everyone in this class appreciates what they're learning, but we can still take it for granted that A, the teacher will always be there to teach, or B, that these teachings will always be available for us to access at any time that we would like, when it's convenient for us, right? I mean, we do offer it by Ustream, we do offer it on audio. I'm accessing an MP3 file that dates back almost 10 years. It's fantastic that we have technology that enables us to do that. But that's not the karma for perpetuating it. And so it's really, really important to, and remember, when we go through these qualities of a good teacher, what we're trying to do is see where we recognize it in ourselves, and if we don't, how we can cultivate it in ourselves, because that's the only way you're going to see it in this being who is your teacher, or the being that you want to be your teacher, right? So a good teacher is grateful to their teachers. Next, a good teacher produces good teachers. We've talked ad nauseum about that, right? So we don't need to go into that anymore. Next one, a good teacher knows that they have succeeded when the student becomes better than them in the subject. We have talked about that, how that's not actually encouraged so much in the Western academic world. Now, I've had some pretty rockin' professors who I would beg to differ, but I think as a norm, and you know what, Lamaji knows of what he's talking about, because he was a career academician, like he was a career professor, a PhD, high level of university learning and teaching, and he saw it in his work environment where highly accredited professors would become very possessive of their knowledge, and they would only teach their students so far because they didn't want their student to surpass them. I mean, and I heard that directly from Lamaji, and I can imagine that, when I hear those words, when I think of the nominal workplace where, competition is often encouraged. Although I have to say, working for a nonprofit, it's a really lovely thing to see that that's not so rampant in my present workforce. Not that there aren't day-to-day samsaric challenges, but my karma has shifted so that I don't see that quite so much. Whereas when I was first out of university and working in a very high-end hotel in sales, and it was an all-female department, it was like ruthless. Just the competition. So it's not about that, especially if you're a teacher. It's not about competing with your fellow teachers or with your students, right? So it's our goal to make sure our students are better than we are. I mean, then we know we've done a good job. So that's the real punchline. That's the real bonus. A good teacher regards teaching as a great privilege and is therefore grateful to their students. And that is absolutely true, because there would be no one to blah blah to if you weren't here. Okay? It's actually a miracle to me that I get to teach it all. So thank you for being here. So both, right? We're grateful to our teachers, and we're grateful to the people who allow us to teach them, or who seem to need us to teach them, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, the last one. A good teacher does not sell Dharma. It's not, even though I say, it's so easy to consume spirituality, Dharma is not a commodity. Unfortunately, this consumerist society that we're in can't help but commodify everything, right? And we as samsaric humans can't help but want to possess and consume everything. But it's not what Dharma is about. And that's why, yes, we gratefully accept donations, because we do need to keep the space open and clean and safe, or we won't have this space to offer these words. But Dharma in and of itself there's no price tag put to it. And it's not because it's worthless. It's not because it's inexpensive learning. It's because it's priceless. Back in ancient India, back in ancient Tibet, to even hear any of this kind of stuff, you literally had to give gold. There's famous stories of students who labored long and hard to learn from their teachers. And we're talking the capital G Guru or the capital L Llama teacher. And they literally went, I don't even know what they did to get the gold, but most of them were, first of all, royalty, okay? Like, if you actually look at the history, to even have the karma to pursue a spiritual life back then, 1,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, you literally had to be born royal. And then it was the gold that was presented. So we are so privileged to have what was actually reserved for the society of kings and queens to be at our fingertips, quite literally for free, right? So on one hand, it's a sign of our good karma that that's available, but on the other hand, to perpetuate it, we really, really, really need to know that it is worth more than anything. And so Dharma should be free, but we as teachers need to understand that, and it's our responsibility to educate our students on that in a way that they can understand, So if you do all the coursework, if you decide to do that, it's your mission if you choose to take it on, then as always, the homeworks are based on the class teachings, the notes. I think all the Ustreams are up, so you can listen back on those. And I am going to send people in this class the link to Lama Marut's original, so you can actually catch everything. And then make copious notes. I always encourage studying with each other, open book homeworks in that regard. Not where you're like looking at it and copying the answer, but you know what I mean by that. And then the quizzes, it's a really good thing to study the homeworks and then close the books and do the quizzes. And then it's really good to study the quizzes, close the books, and do the final. But this final is a little bit different. Only half of it is based on the quizzes and homeworks. The other half is your karmic correlations. So there's no right or wrong answer, but we do encourage you to seriously think of the answer and think of it. The more seriously you think of the answer, the more benefit it will be to you. We don't care if you write anything or if you write actually I do care if you write what I think. If you write what you think I want you to say, don't do that. Like, think about the questions and really, really, really try to come up with what the answer is. I'll talk more at the end of class what I mean by that. But that's how the final's written. And because really that's all it is, right? This whole course has been, you don't actually find your perfect teacher. You create them by creating the causes, by planting the seeds in you that will ripen as your teacher coming to you or who you find, right? So, as I said at the beginning of class, today's reading, the sources of what we're going to finish up is from the last day of Pabonka Rinpoche's Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. It'll be day 9. And then we're actually going to do a checks and balances, like a sort of a, we're going to go through Pabonka Rinpoche first, and then we're going to give you Alexander Berzin's interpretation, which actually addresses almost exactly the same things. But Pabonka Rinpoche was, can't remember his years off the top of my head, but it's over 100 years ago. And because he was still alive when Ken Rinpoche was a young boy. And Ken Rinpoche passed in 2004. So I would say that Pabonka Rinpoche, lived in the 1800s to the early 1900s, right? Mid-1900s. So we're talking recent but we're not talking modern, whereas Berzin is within the last 10, 20 years of, actually it's probably more than 10 years, but within the more current than 50 years. So, and he's really writing the explanation on teachers from a Western scholarly perspective, so it's useful to us. It is in the American culture, the North American culture. A lot of things in the ancient, even as recent as Pabonka Rinpoche, are culturally influenced. Can't help but be, right? And we don't live in 18th, 19th century Tibet. The ways that we would conduct ourselves to express the things that are asked of us could possibly be done differently than it was prescribed back then. So we're going to kind of do a little contrast and compare. Okay, so this is starting with Pabonka Rinpoche. And actually, you know what? You've got the readings. I do encourage you to read all of it, but we're really only going to cover the first few pages. And because it's only the first few pages that talk about what's important to cover in this class, the rest of Chapter 9 really dives deep into Guru Yoga, into the classic Tibetan ritual of the ritual of that practice. And as I've said in this class before, we're not heavy on ritual. It's not that we don't respect it, it's just that we're not monastics who mostly teach. Llama Marut was at the time, but most of the people here, actually all of the people in Vancouver aren't. So we're not going to pretend to be. And we have been taught some ritual, like the 4 forces, and how to do the watering bowls and stuff, the water bowls and stuff like that. But we're not deep into these classic rituals the way many other lineages are. So if that's what you're looking for, there are other beautiful temples, even in Vancouver, that can teach you those things. But the rest of the chapter goes deep into that, so it's interesting. It's curious. I mean, it's interesting, and it's good for the curious mind to read of it. But even Chapter 9 will not give you the handbook on how to do those rituals. It will just talk about them, right? Okay. So in the key points, though, first thing is, and I think these correspond to homework questions. What are the 3 ways detailed by Pabonka Rinpoche as lesser, intermediate, and supreme methods of serving a spiritual teacher? So basically, it's the 3 ways to serve a teacher, and we have actually talked about this before. It'll sound familiar. One is, it's almost like the 3 ways of giving, almost. One is through material methods. You can support your teacher, serve them through material methods. The second is by serving them, and that's what is called in Pabonka Rinpoche's definition, honor and respect. You actually honor and respect them by serving through your actions. That's how those 2 concepts tie together. And the third one, and actually these correspond. So we were asked, what is the lesser, intermediate, and supreme methods of serving, right? So the lesser would be the material, which is how it goes in the perfection of giving too, right? Like, material is useful and it's good, but it's actually not the highest form. So the intermediate is serving. And that's really interesting, right? Because weren't we told right at the beginning of this course that the way to create the karma for a teacher is to serve, to learn to serve? Not learn to serve. That was the big mistake that most students made when Geshe-la said, why are you here at Diamond Mountain? It's not to learn to serve, it's to serve to learn. And so by that, one might assume that serving is the highest, but it's actually the intermediate. The highest, what do you think it is? The highest way of serving your teacher.
Teaching is to practice Practice.
It is, but I'll be even more simple than that. Do what you're told.
Oh.
By the teacher.
Yeah. Do what you're told, because practice could be on your own terms, right? Conveniently to what you think it is. But yes, to practice what they teach you is the same as to do what you're told.
Okay.
But, yeah. And actually, do what you're told is the t-shirt label, fridge magnet slogan from Llama Marut's dissertation of The Magic of Empty Teachers, right? And he kind of is a little self-effacing in the audio when you get to listen to it, because he says, we've been kind of talking about it in a jokey manner, but at the end of the day, that is what it is. Do what you're told, but not do what you're told at the cost of your own intelligence, at the cost of your own. It's not about subverting your own free will. That's not what do what you're told means. And remember several classes ago, I gave the story about the Llama who had these students, and then he said, "Oh, we're running out of money. You got to go you got to go rob the liquor store and bring me back some cash and maybe a bottle." It's and then 3 of the students will leap up and run off to go do that, and the one stays and says, "Everything you have taught me has taught me that what you've just asked me isn't what you meant to ask me. And I respectfully decline." And, right? There was, so, but see, in that, do what you're told, he wasn't literally doing what he was told, but he was doing what he was told, what he was taught, which was, right, to always practice the 10 non-virtues, and to always, there's many ways to follow those instructions, do what you're told, and it's not about blindly just letting someone else dictate what you do. You're not a spiritual zombie. That's not what this is about. Sometimes people actually do take on teachers for that reason. They want to be told what to do. They don't want the accountability or the responsibility of deciding for themselves, right? And that's not the right reason. Now, having said that, if you do what you're told all the time, it actually does take that pressure off of you. There's no question. Do I do this or do I do that? Well, my teacher has taught me I do this. There's no question, right? And so that angst, that indecision is completely removed. And there is a sense of release and relief around that. But that's not the same as literally doing every single thing that you're told, even when it goes against your unshakable understanding of ethics. That's not what there. So there's the literal and figurative translations that you have to get really good at discerning. There's actually a part of that one, the do what you're told. It's really interesting. Sometimes when a student is so enamored of their teacher that they really do want to be like them, that they'll start to eat the same foods that they see their teacher eating, or listen to the same music, or wear the same, burn the same incense, or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be the teacher, but if you think that those things are going to make you that, first of all, that's way too easy, right? Just eat the same cereal and proof you're the teacher. It's all very, very superficial, and we're still attaching superficial, we're not understanding who the teacher is, right? So, but there is a tendency, people do that in relationships, right? You fall in love with someone, then all of a sudden you're a vegetarian just because they are, or all of a sudden you don't drink coffee because they don't, or you know what I mean? We do that, and then you break up and then you're back on, it's just funny how it's kind of human nature at one level. So if you catch yourself, now having said that, do students often look and sound like their teachers? Yeah, the good ones do, actually. But not because they're forcing it, just because they're so channeling their teacher that their teacher comes through them. It's really interesting. Okay, so that was actually the first homework question. 3 ways to serve the teacher according to Prabhupada Rinpoche. Second question, what is the best form of Guru Yoga? So Guru is Sanskrit for the teacher, right? Capital T, teacher, the Llama. And yoga is Sanskrit actually for discipline. So it means, what is the best way to discipline yourself to follow a teacher? That's what Guru Yoga really is. And you know what? Yoga, in the word Guru Yoga, has exactly the same connotations as any yoga asana. It can be physically hard, and it is a discipline. And it can hurt sometimes, and you might not want to be in that particular pose, you know? So, it's an interesting phrase, Guru Yoga. It's a good one to contemplate what that means. So then Bonka Rinpoche asks, what is the best way to perform Guru Yoga? And we basically have three choices. One, you can learn and study and practice old Tibetan or Indian ritual. Like get all the right accoutrements, get all the right colors and artifacts and, you know, all the bells and whistles quite literally, and set it up beautifully and memorize the foreign words and like chant them judiciously, but you know, like with the intent. If you do it with the right motivation and intent, it'll still work. But that's one way. The second way is that you can just serve every day in some way. And you know what? Even the intention to serve, even just to let them know that you're available, even if they don't take you up on it right then and there, is serving. Serve in as many ways as you can, a little bit at a time almost. When I say a little bit at a time, like make it a habit to even send them gratitude as your own internal offering or something like that, right? Every day. Like do something like that. Now, of course, ultimately, if you could serve them in person, you know, be at their feet as Geshe-la was for his Llama, or as when you see the big Llamas traveling, you see they travel with a bit of an entourage, like they have people. They have people who travel with them. Basically, they're like PAs, right? Like personal assistants, but it's way more than that in the Llama discipline. It is a discipline. In the Lama-disciple relationship, you know, we call them the attendants, right? But that, to be that close to the Guru, takes so much strength and courage and conviction. It's ridiculous the level of practice that those people who are serving, you know, lamas who have a career of that's all they do 24/7, traveling the world, teaching thousands of people at a time, and their personal attendants who are with them 24/7, incredible service. They don't get a day off, right? Like it's pretty remarkable. So, you know, if there is any way that you can serve a Lama in person, it is that much more powerful. But that's all wrapped up in the second one. So the first one is to learn ye olde ritual and do it religiously, basically, right? The second one is to serve, either in your heart, in your mind, or better yet, in person, however you can. The third one is the same as the third one for the last one. Just do what you're told. Put into practice what they have taught you. Is not only, right, one of the best ways to serve a teacher, but is the highest form of Guru Yoga. So it's the highest form of serving a teacher and the highest form of Guru Yoga, which makes sense, right? Because the highest form of serving a teacher is number 2 of Guru Yoga. So the highest form of that would be to, and by the way, what they really want you to do is get enlightened. So just do that, okay? Yeah. So let's see if we have more of this that we need to know. Okay, So we're going to flip over to Berzin's book now, Alexander Berzin. So those two main topics are all we're going to unpack from Paboka Rinpoche's Day 9. The rest of it, please read because it's interesting, but you're not going to get a commentary on it, not in this class. Alexander Berzin, we're talking about chapters 8 and 9 of his book, relating to a spiritual teacher. And he refers to something called the Sutra Level Guru meditation, which actually brings up a good point. There is a difference between Sutra Level and Tantra Level. And the Sutra Level is the prerequisite for the Tantra Level. And what really happens, and this is not a Tantra class, so I'm not going to teach Tantra Guru Yoga, but really what we've been learning here about the 3 ways to best serve, the 3 highest forms, you put that basically on rocket fuel when you're in Tantra. The do what you're told becomes big, old, flashing neon capital letters in your heart, okay? It's that level of doing what you're told where there is absolutely no doubt. And if there is any kind of hesitation, if you're not seeing your teacher as the Buddha, then you're not ready for it, because it'll be more damaging to you than useful at that level. So that's all I'm going to say about the Tantra level. It just becomes Guru Yoga becomes the thing. It becomes it is the thing that will get you to enlightenment, but it is the thing that you have to understand or it won't work. So Alexander Berzin says we should train ourselves to focus on what appears to us as our spiritual teacher's good points and not what appears to us as his or her faults. Now you may have heard that or you may not have. You know who famously says that very thing is Jetson Kappa in his Lamrim Chenmo. And he's the one that we referred to in earlier classes. And one of Jetson Kappa's, I'm off-roading a bit here, but I do know that for a fact that one of Lama Jetson Kappa's famous teachings on how to develop respect for your teacher is to make a pro and con list. Make a good list and make a bad list of your teacher. Everything you love, respect, admire, and adore, everything you can't stand or irritates you or wishes you were different, and then you take that bad list and you throw it away and you focus on the good list. That's not to say you're in denial or that you are not saying that that's what you see right now, but you don't dwell on it. And that's what Alexander Berzin says too. If you see some faults and some good points, what you're supposed to do is focus on the good points and not dwell on the bad. Because if you dwell on the bad, then that's what you're going to create, right? You're going to magnify and manifest those things. I mean, why do you have a teacher anyways? You're not trying to get worse than you were when you started, right? So don't obsess about them. And Llama goes further to say, to focus on the bad rather than the good is like having a perfectly healthy body and then to just focus on this tiny little scab and to just not be able to not pick it. And you know what happens if you pick a little scab, it bleeds and then it gets worse, right? So, and the rest of you is just fine. Thank you very much. And you're not focused on the rest of you. You're just focused on this tiny little scab, right? So like that, don't do that. Don't focus on the scab. And actually, with the analogy of a scab, if you do just not focus on it, it goes away, right? It goes away without you having to do anything. In fact, it heals better if you don't do anything, right? Like, it very likely won't scar, whereas if you were to pick at it, you'll just end up having a nasty scar. So, like that. And if you cannot make a pro list, if you cannot think of anything good about your teacher, why are they your teacher? Right? Like the reason you chose them to be your teacher is you saw something good in them focus on that. Because you're not going to see anything more, anything better in them until you have more better stuff in you, right? So if you're not seeing what you want to see in your teacher, you know you got some work cut out, right? So Berzin says, dwelling on a teacher's faults can only anger, sadden, or disillusion us. And, if we're obsessing about the faults that we see in our teacher, the faults that we think they have, then you're doing the opposite of Guru Yoga. And you are really working hard at becoming more angry and more disillusioned and more sad. So what's up with that, right? So if you want to gain the results that Guru Yoga is designed for, it's for gaining inspiration in your own practice. That's why you focus on their strengths. That's why you focus on the positive qualities that you see in them. And it's not that those positive qualities are not there. They are there. You don't have to make them up to believe in them, right? So, and then he goes on to say that in order to focus on the good qualities, we do first need to recognize them. So, in the first one he's saying, if you can't think of any, why did you pick them? And, how do you get them there to begin with, the good qualities? But the second one is that we need to recognize them. And in this, he does almost get traditionally Tibetan. In Tibetan, they have this term which is translated to English as it's consideration and what's the other one? It's those two qualities that we don't do something wrong because we don't want to think badly of ourselves. That's one. And we don't want others to think badly of us by seeing what we do, right? I'm forgetting what the other word is, but because Berzin actually unpacks consideration a lot. But anyways, those are the two things that are key in ethics, according to the ancient Tibetans, and Berzin gives us a couple different qualities. I'm having a little brain blip, but I might come up on it again. Oh, maybe I'm not there yet. Sorry, I'm off-roading so much I jumped right off the section that we're on. Okay, we're still on recognizing the good qualities. And we're kind of going backwards a bit because he did say that focus on the good and not on the bad. How you focus on the good is you recognize the good. And through recognizing in the good, then you can develop a belief in them. In Sanskrit, the word is shraddha, which is often translated as faith. But see, faith in the English language often smacks of blind faith, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about confidence. Faith born out of a confidence in what you see, in what you believe to be true because of what you observe. And that's the type of confidence, that's the type of power, the conviction that results from recognizing the good things in your teacher. So Berzin is quoting a definition for believing as the constructive mental action of focusing on something existent and knowable and considering it either existent or true, or considering a fact to be true. It's interesting that he uses the word knowable. I don't know if you guys have taken the logic course, but according to Buddhist definition, the definition for an existing thing, the proof of something that exists, is that it's knowable. A knowable thing is an existing thing. That's how it's defined. Like if you're on the debate ground, that's what an existing thing means. It's a knowable thing, which means that if a thing is unknowable by a mind, if a thing is not known by a mind, then that thing does not exist. Which, it's that whole thing about if a tree falls in the woods and there's nothing there to see or hear it, will it still make a noise? And the answer is no, because there's no one there, right? And so, yeah. Yeah, the synonym for knowable in Buddhism is an existing thing. So an existing thing is a knowable thing, and a non-existing thing is unknowable. That's very Lama-ji to put it backwards and forwards like that too, A thing that is unknowable by any mind does not exist. And how that ties into faith, how that ties into confidence and belief, is that if you don't have a deep conviction, then your faith isn't going to last. Your good list is not going to grow. So, and there's a bodhisattva vow that says that we should practice to see everyone as our teacher, right? Teacher with capital T, meaning the Buddha. So that actually is what we're talking about. And you can do a little debate with yourself about whether or not your teacher is the Buddha. And it really is good to not go immediately there. You can start with, instead of the argument with yourself about is my Lama the Buddha, you can start with the interrogation on does my Lama have any good qualities? Start there and then work your way up, right? Yeah. Okay. So, Burson refers to Master Asanga, who says there are 3 ways of believing a fact to be true. So we're still trying to dissect the definition of truth, right? Of an existing thing, it's a knowable thing. And how do you know that something is true? Well, it requires 3 things. 1, you get clear-headed. You get clear-headed about the Lama's good qualities. Okay? That means having checked it out, having observed your teacher, you focus on good qualities that you clear-headedly know they possess. Okay? It's not because you're drinking some funny Kool-Aid or that, there's some strange incense wafting through the air. It's not that. You're very clear-headed. And what he says is, the more we focus on the qualities and clear-headedly believe them to be a fact, the more, this is gorgeous, the more we cleanse our minds of disturbing emotions and attitude towards our mentors, such as arrogance or doubts about the person. So there's a direct correlation between being clear-headed about their attributes and clearing your mind of obstacles that are going to prevent you from seeing them that way to begin with. Okay? That's pretty cool. If even you're really not seeing them as exquisitely as you wish you could, at least in the attempt to hone what you do respect and admire in them, you're already chipping away at the obstacles that are preventing you from seeing them as perfect as you wish they were. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, the second one is that it's based on reason. So, the first one, as you clear-headedly observe their positive attributes, then you develop shraddha, you develop belief, you develop confidence, because you can reasonably determine that they have them. right? So it's based on reason. And again, not from their own side, right? But because of emptiness. And then thirdly, because you clear-headedly see their assets, because you've reasoned that they are true, then you are able to cultivate aspiration. And that means that you're getting inspired by them to be them eventually, right? So, that's pretty cool, because that is the whole reason. Guru Yoga done properly motivates you to practice better, right? Shame, that was the word. Something in consideration. Shame and consideration are the two, that's how the English is, that's how the Tibetan is translated into English. We cover it a lot in ACI. Shame and consideration, we also cover it again in the Bodhisattva Vow course. But those are the two qualities that are important to consider when you're, it's to do with discipline and ethics. And they say that the reason to take vows from a living person is because you would have these two qualities. You would consider shame and consideration before breaking your vows. You don't want to see yourself as someone who breaks vows, and you don't want to appear to others. You're considering their mental state, right? You don't want to cause them mental afflictions by seeing you break a vow. So that's the shame and consideration. And what Berzin calls it is values or honor. And so he's flipping it to the positive, right? Shame and consideration are negative terms. And he's saying that you have a kind of good pride in your own good qualities, or that you see in others, and therein lies a built-in safety to not destroy them, because you're proud of being, in a healthy way. You've got healthy pride about the good qualities. And that the values are appreciation and esteem for those good qualities. That's what the honor and values are in Berzin's, and Llama is loosely relating those to shame and consideration, because they are kind of flip sides of the same. Both will help guide your discipline, right? Okay. So, next we move on to the meditation on the Guru. So one has focused on the actual good qualities of a teacher. So you've clear-headedly observed them. You reasoned that they're there. You then have aspiration. And then you've come to this point where you have faith and honor, or value and honor, right? No shame and consideration. And then you meditate on the good qualities of the teacher, which leads you to appreciation. Isn't that interesting that appreciation is all the way down the line here? It's not down the line, but you know what I mean? And I've said that a little bit of gratitude will go far to boost your guru karma, right? So appreciating, here's the definition. Here's Berzin's definition. This is actually kind of cool. Appreciation or appreciating is defined as focusing with continual mindfulness on the mentor's kindness. So there's apparently two different things to think about. Recognizing them through the discriminating process, which is like you discern that their good qualities are there for certain. You get that's where the confidence comes from, right? And then the second element is, this is where the excitement comes from. You think, wow, like it's so cool. Not only are those qualities there in my teacher, it is so cool that my teacher has them, right? So that's where the appreciation comes from, and not only from the qualities they have, but the kindness they show you. Yeah, he says, focus with continual mindfulness on our mentor's kindness and valuing it with a sense of awe. And to be awestruck is to have that OMG capital dot explanation mark, right? In your heart. Yeah. And with any version of that, maybe it's not huge, 200 feet tall capitals, but if there is some element of that, the next aspect of this sort of hierarchy will be easy. After that all comes profound respect. It's just a natural byproduct. The respect comes, and then naturally an intense love. It's just a natural progression. Okay? And then the final step in this Guru meditation is actually to request inspiration from the Llama, which is kind of what we do in the seven-limbed prayer. When we, this is the preliminaries to meditation, we beg for teachings at the end, right? We ask them to please bless our mind. And that is kind of what you do in the practice of this Guru meditation. So then Berzin goes on to talk about the next step of Guru Yoga, which correlates to the Lam Rim. So first you find your teacher, and these are the qualities you're looking for and all of that. And then the next thing is about how to serve them. And so he then goes on to how to act. 3 ways to serve a Lama. So this is now Berzin's version, not Pabonka Rinpoche's. Remember the Pabonka Rinpoche's was material support, honor and respect and service, and do what you're told, right?
And you walk out of here going, do what you're told.
Do what you're told.
Yeah.
It's sticking.
So what Berzin says is that materially, this doesn't mean you have to buy your Lama a Rolls Royce. Or, Ken Rinpoche had a student want to give him her house. Literally. He didn't let her, but she wanted to. It's not about that. There is, though, that doesn't mean, though, that you shouldn't give your teachers anything material at all. That's not, they don't need it from you, that's not why they're teaching you, but that's not why you shouldn't do it, right? And Berzin does go into this a little bit, if you're looking at his ebook, it's under a title called Support the Work of the Mentor. He calls the teacher the mentor. And supporting the mentor, supporting the Lama materially, you help ensure that the financial viability of the Dharma Center is supported. It's just not because it's an exchange for a teaching, because that's just a transaction, right? But that you are truly believing in the teacher's work. So of course you want to support the house that they work in. The house meaning the space, right? Doesn't mean you buy them a house, but although I have seen that happen too. There was a Lama up in the British Properties who was for many, many years provided free space shelter for his temple, which was lovely. That karma has shifted. He's not up there anymore. He's teaching more globally now, but that was through the support of people up there who knew that was one way to have a home base for their teacher, and that's beautiful, actually. Okay, the next one in Pabonka Rinpoche was the honor, respect, and service, right? So Berzin goes on to point out the cultural differences, between ancient Tibet and now. So there were some what we would consider strange practices of showing respect in a monastery. To show respect, you would actually make these slurping sounds, and I've seen Geshe-la do it, and it literally is it's like that, and that in the Western world would be considered rude, right? And in Tibet, apparently, I'm not doing it properly, but that sound I made is the sound he made, and there's a certain way to do it, I guess, but it shows respect. That's a cultural thing, right? Even physical prostrations, the way those of us who are sitting here right now are used to doing. And that's why I always tell people who are new or who just drop in, like, please don't do that just because everybody else is. Don't do it if you don't understand. If you are compelled to, if you really feel you want to, then please do. But, you know, it's not the way we normally show respect in the Western society. Although I have to say, and maybe it's the influence of the Dalai Lama or Mother Teresa, I don't know, but you see a lot of people doing this, right, who are not Asian. Like you see a lot of people just as a greeting, and I think that's beautiful. I think that popular culture having adapted that is really cool. So there are ways, right, that you can show respect and still be able to be true to the current culture that you live in. And that's what Berzin was saying. You show respect formally in gestures. And, you know, there's other ways. You can open the door for your teacher. You can make sure they enter first. You can pour them their tea before you pour your own. Like, there's so many ways that you can show respect and honor and serve in that way, right? You can help promote their classes. You can make sure that other students are encouraged to come. You know, there's all ways of honoring and serving. You can dress appropriately. You can, actually in the higher teachings, there's different ways of sitting too that are taught. We're not going to go through that here, but I will give you one little sneak peek of that. You guys are sitting fine. You don't ever actually point the bottoms of your feet at your teacher. Like, you know, where you stretch out? And if you need to stretch out in the other directions or cover your legs. I'll just give you that little bit of advice for here. And you know what? I do know that that's a cultural thing. In ancient India, the bottoms of your feet were the dirtiest places of your body, right? And no, that's not something that we necessarily practice here, but that's a good one to adopt, I think, you know. Okay, and the third one about doing what you're told, following the teacher's advice to the best of your ability. Remember that it does not mean that you follow instructions unthinkingly. That's not what it means, okay? It doesn't mean that you just do literally every single friggin' thing that you're told. It doesn't. What it does mean is that you must approach it with what they call a discriminating awareness. This doesn't mean you judge it. You never ever judge, but you do discriminate with awareness. And you discriminate actually not between good, bad, right, wrong, because that's a judgment call, right? You discriminate between what in your own mind you are capable of and what you're not capable of at the present time. And you know what, that's very much like what Master Shantideva says about the bodhisattva activities. You know, there are famous bodhisattva stories about being able to take out your eyeball to give it to someone who needs it. He says, yeah, you should do that, but not until you're ready. And until you're ready, start with carrots and potatoes. Give those away first, you know, and then work your way up, right? By the way, when you are ready to give away, like literally go in there and pull it out, you will not feel any pain. Because even hearing it makes you kind of cringe inside, right? Like this, ooh, ow. So, you know, you can give away some prostrations in your head, because you can do the whole full frontal floor face plant thing in your mind, right? Like you can, and you can offer it up honestly. So there's different ways that you can, here's my favorite. Show respect to your teacher in your mind. Ultimately doing what they're told. If you've been taught, this is one thing I was taught with the 7-limb prayer, you know, the first one is you bow down to them, right? You could, in your mind, physically see yourself doing the full-on, you know, as they teach us in THY Yoga, the full-on body prostration. Or you could just think of the best thing about them that you respect and think about it so hard that tears are rolling down your eyes. That would be some respect. So, so that's the first level of discriminating awareness, like be fully conscious of that. The second is do not discriminate between what you're hearing the Lama say to do, and what you know to the best of your wisdom to be the correct thing to do. Okay, that's what I said about that one student who said, Holy Llama, like, everything you've taught me tells me I shouldn't go knock off that liquor store and steal money. Like, that just goes against everything that you've taught me, right? Like that. You have that type of discernment. So basically what this teaching is saying is don't rely on the superficial. Not in the superficial appearance of the teacher, not in the superficial trappings of what appears to be, being like your teacher, and not in the superficial sounds and decibels of the words, right? Mm-hmm. Basically, you got to go deep. Go deep. Okay. And that whole doing what you're told, I wasn't joking when I said just get enlightened. I wasn't, although I always laugh when I say that. It's about, you'll know if you're doing what you're told, if you're happier, if you're being a nicer person. If you are, doesn't mean that you don't have an irritated thought ever. Like, that doesn't mean that. That day will come, but if that hasn't come yet, that doesn't mean that it's not working. Here's the thing. You can always think about getting a little closer to Buddhahood every day, And the real criterion of the teachings is this working for me? Am I seeing a change in myself and in my world? Because ultimately, any of this, Dharma, life, is an individual practice. At the end of the day, it comes down to you. And you have the power to plant the right seeds. And I don't even want to say right. You have the power to plant the seeds to create the results that you need and want in your life. That's where the real magic is. That's the magic of the teacher. Okay? And okay, we're almost done, but I want to play you this 12-minute song that I have because it's totally about respecting and adoring the teacher. And it comes from the it's not a popular song in the pop culture. It's yet again, Zoe's been getting inculcated into my whole worship soundtrack. But it's this one, you're gonna groove on this. This is called Worship Mob. Is the group actually, but just a couple more things. Okay, so with the final, and I have lyrics, and I have a little piece of this is actually a gift that was created when I taught this back in 2009 by Floriana. And this is actually how the final is asked, but this is the nugget. This is the karmic correlation worksheet that is the gift from this class. So it takes all of those, those koala bear type analogies. I'm going to just call it that now, the koala bear analogies. And you have to search for how it is that you either do or don't have it, and how you're going to get it. And the TDFO means, what are you going to do for others? Because that is the actual antidote to not having it. That is the actual seed to plant to get it, to do for others, okay? So, I think there's one there that says, I do not see my teachers as, I don't know if it's in there, but there's a homework question that says, okay, so these are the qualities. That's not your final, but this is a really, really, really good karmic correlation sheet for you guys to work on. In the final, it'll say something like, I do not see my teachers as easily accessible to me. So what is the TDFO there, right? Like, why would your teachers not be easily accessible to you? What do you think? What are some, because there's no right or wrong answers.
You're not there for others.
Yeah? Or?
Not giving your time to other people.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Helping others.
Like, you're being blocked to access your teacher. Maybe look at where you're blocking others from whatever they want to be at or with, or yeah, right? Like, where are you not facilitating ease in access? Where are you being possessive or protecting, right? Like, isn't that interesting? Like, when you say access as opposed to teacher teaching, because it's not the thing. It's the, remember, it's not the projector, it's not the projection, it's the projecting. I'm taking a leap forward to Book Jumpa now, but, you know, it's that. Like, you have to, so don't just unpack these at the, yeah, I know this, like the Dharma cocktail party answer. Like, give those, but then dig deeper and go, okay, what does it mean when I don't have access? Like, what does that mean? It means I'm being denied. It means I'm being blocked. It means that I'm not good enough. It means that, like, you know, whatever it means to you, and then look at, well, why would I have to experience that? What would I have to have done before that would result in me being denied or blocked, or, you know? So that's how you do that one. I see my teacher as totally ethically pure. Well, yay for you if you do, but what if you don't? Or what if it's mixed? Well, what are the causes of, like, okay, so it's not only what are the causes of that, but the fix is the TDFO. What are you going to do for others? What are you going to do for one other that will help you purify this karma, right? Like, isn't that so cool? That is so effective. Like, it's taking karmic correlations where we've taught before, and it's not just memorizing, which is, you know what, it's useful to know that stinginess causes scarcity. It's useful to know that. It's useful to know that generosity is the cause for abundance. It's useful. It's really, really useful to know that hurting will cause future illness in you, or helping will cause in future assistance to you. Like, it's useful to know those things, but what are you going to do with it, right? So that's what the TDFO is, okay? Cool, hey? Yeah, so in the final, which you will get in the link that I'm going to send you from Llama Roots ACILA, you'll actually get those homework questions, and that's the second half of the final. And now, you get, here's the lyrics. So, yes, it's one page, it's double-sided. And it's Worship Mob. And the surrendering to the teacher is my little commentary. That's not what this is called, okay? This is called Love Outran Me. So you can dance, you can sit in contemplation, you can just do whatever feels right. And let me just hope that my internet connection is working today.
To be the least
Yeah, you should find that on YouTube and look at it, because it's actually many, many, many singers. And the screen then splits into all these grids, and they're all actually in front of a microphone. But it's a mob, like it's a worship mob. It's very cool. Okay, any questions? We have a few weeks off. Normally we have a 2-week break to clean, like scrub down the studio and wash the yoga mats. But this year, my karma has definitely shifted for that, because I'm usually the one lugging about a third of those mats home and trying to wash them in the bathtub. There's a handful of other angels here who do that too. But anyways, ever since we had the solution and Lama John kindly installed the yoga hanging mats, the racks back there, it has solved our stinky yoga mat problem. So, yeah, and thanks to our holy Yulia, who's taken over the looking after the cleaning of the studio, it's spotless. So we actually get a summer break. So there's no formal class for the next 2 weeks. We would have started the week after, but that's the week that Swami Mukti Bodhananda Ji is gracing us with her presence from the Bihar School of Yoga. So, there is the urban retreat here the first weekend of September, and then that immediate following week is the residential retreat in Gabriola, and a lot of people are going there. So we're not having class that week. So we'll start regular classes, and you'll have to check the schedule, because I think ACI 7 is being offered. I'm going to teach on Wednesday. John's going to teach the ACI 7. I'm going to teach on Wednesday nights, just for 3 weeks. Actually, I should double check that schedule. I'm going to double check that schedule. But I think I'm teaching for I'm definitely teaching for 3 weeks. I'm not sure if it's going to be longer than that, but for 3 weeks I'm going to do a Book Jimpa refresher. So Book Jimpa is the fire up your meditation practice classes that we're running on Wednesdays. And it's been a while since we've had some Book Jimpa classes, so I'm just going to run 3 Wednesdays where people can drop in and just refresh the fundamentals. But I'm also going to be talking a bit more of the formal aspects of that, because we've left Wednesdays as an open drop-in, kind of a groovy meditation night, and the Book Jimpas are actually usually more structured than that. So it's been great the way we've been doing it, and we'll continue. But in the new year, Lama Roger is going to come and teach Book Jimpa 14. So for those who are granted permission to go into that, it will be a bit more structured than just the regular drop-in Wednesdays. So I'll touch upon some of those aspects that people might want to start training in this fall, so that they'll be ready for the teachings in January. There's going to be some Hatha Yoga Pradipika follow-up by my holy Lama Yvonne and Lama Roger after Swami Bhakti Bodhananda Ji leaves. And on October 17th, I think they're doing their 3rd and final installment for this year of the spiritual partnership talks that they've been giving since they've come out of 3-year retreat. So there's lots of yummy things coming up. Check the Three Jewels Vancouver schedule. There was an anti-spam legislation that came through recently, and we did the whole opt-out thing on, not the opt-out, it wasn't an opt-out, it was you had to opt in to stay on our newsletters, and not everyone probably even caught that. So if you're not getting weekly newsletters right now, go back into the website and resubscribe, because it means that you've been dropped off. Okay? Because I think we've dropped several hundred people. So if you're watching Ustream and you're not regularly getting Three Jewels Vancouver weekly e-newsletters, go back onto our website and resubscribe so that you're not missing out on any of the goodies, because there's a lot of goodies coming this fall and winter. Okay, let's dedicate. And in the final class, no prostrations, right? Because we want to leave something unfinished, but we still do dedicate. really gather up the effort of this class, all of the incredible virtue for however much or however small or large you were able to participate, and really commit to doing the TDFOs, okay? And really send that amazing energy out from your heart. Buki Jukshin Meitok Trang Rirabling Shi Nyande Gyambadi Sange Shindu Mikte Uwa Girokunamdak Shingla Juparshok Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami Eva Dike Wokun Shunam Yashe Zozokshin Shunam Yashe Leijunwei Dampakuni Toparsho. Thank you. Yay. Oh, everybody has to have some of this because it's melting.
Is it melting? Let's